There's a lot of talk of former President Trump getting charged with committing an insurrection on January 6th.
What we saw happen on Wednesday, murder of a police officer by members of a mob incited and directed to the Capitol by the President of the United States.
Alex, explain what you're seeing. You don't see Capitol Police, you don't see military, National Guard on the scene right now.
In a stunning decision, Twitter banning the president permanently.
But did he really? Welcome to Don't Trust What You See, a show that we dig in deep to find the truth, not the truth that they want us to know, the truth that's actually there. Today we are going to be digging into the facts and learning if he really committed a crime on January 6th, so buckle up while we talk about this issue. So, we all remember the protests that happened outside of the Capitol on January 6th last year, or 2 years ago now. But if you don't remember, I made a video explaining the protest and the link will be down below. But today, let's just focus on Trump's involvement and the people around him that are really close to him, like his campaign manager and stuff like that, and the things that he said or didn't say. So, firstly, if he really believed in voter fraud so much, why did he shut down the Commission on Voter Fraud on January 3rd, 2018? Trump put out a statement saying, rather than engaging in endless legal battles at the taxpayer expense, today, I signed an executive order to dissolve the commission. I just think that he should have kept it open if he was going to make claims about the election only 2 years later. So let's fast forward 1 year later on July 30th. He said, and I quote, "I do not want to see a week after the November 3rd, you never even know who won the election," which is First Amendment right protected activity. So let's fast forward to November. And the election took place with Trump not saying much, but the very next day, on November 4th, he says a very sad group of people are trying to disfranchise those voters who voted for me. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 in the morning. We are getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. Now, this is where it gets iffy. The beginning is okay because that is First Amendment protected speech, but saying a group of people are trying to disfranchise the citizens that voted for you is protected by the First Amendment, yeah, but it causes people to lose trust in the election. Saying we want all voting to stop, I can kind of see where he's coming from because no other year was like 2020. Formally, we would count the ballots that people dropped off or made right at the booth. But this year, millions of people were sending in their ballot by mail. This means that they need to give it a few more days to make sure every ballot is counted. As weird as it sounds, it does make sense now looking at the whole entire picture. On November 9th, an Oath Keeper member sends a text message to a group saying, and I quote, "I need you fighting fit by inauguration." Now this can be taken two different ways. Fighting in a mental way, like you will never stop, or taken in the literal way, like they will fight people. Either way is First Amendment protected, but we can still question why that text was sent and asked what the intent was for gathering a large group of people by inauguration. On November 14th, over 100,000 people gather in Freedom Plaza to support of Trump's claims that the election was rigged. Then Trump drives by in his motorcade and waves hello later in the day. There was an altercation with a counter-protesters, which resulted in 20 people getting arrested. After that, Trump praises his supporters who fought with counter-protesters, which is First Amendment protected activity. After that, on December 1st, Attorney General Bill Barr says in an interview published on this day by the Associated Press that there is no evidence of election fraud on a scale that would change the election outcome. When Trump hears that Barr has publicly contradicted him, he is so angry that he throws his lunch against the wall.
I remember hearing noise coming from down the hallways. I left the office and went down to the dining room. He motioned for me to come in and then pointed towards the front of the room near the fireplace mantle and the TV, where I first noticed there was ketchup dripping down the wall and there's a shattered porcelain plate on the floor.
Which is the most Trump thing that he has ever done. This is according to a White House aide's testimony on the January 6th House Committee on June 28th, 2020, which is First Amendment protected if true. Trump has since denied all allegations. On November 7th, the Arizona Republican Party asked supporters whether they are willing to give their lives for fighting over the election results, which is First Amendment protected activity. But you have to ask the question again, why are they trying to rally people in a big group? On December 8th, Trump campaign lawyer Jack Willennick emailed Trump campaign strategist Boris Epston to explain the fake election scheme. Willenith wrote, "We would just be sending in fake electoral votes to Pence so that someone in Congress can make an objection when they start counting the votes and start arguing that the fake votes should be counted." Willenith helped organize the fake electors from Arizona in a later email, adding a smiley face emoji. Willenith acknowledged that the term alternative sounded better than quote fake, which is conspiring to overthrow an election and is counted as a serious but lesser counterpart to treason, which is anywhere from 20-year imprisonment to a life sentence. On December 12th, there is an event in DC that attracts thousands of Trump supporters, which say things like Joe Biden is a globalist and Joe Biden will be removed one way or another, which is First Amendment protected. But at the end of the day, the people have the right to protest against the government. But if we were to look at the group as a whole, it looks like they were ready to start a civil war over the election, and that's not good. We shouldn't be at the point that people are going to have thousands of people dying over something that we can just be handled at the Supreme Court. Fast forwarding to December 14th, Joe Biden wins the electoral vote. Later that day, the Trump campaign team goes through with their plan and campaigned members from Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, all of which Biden won in the election. Cast perpetrated electoral votes for Trump. Every single one had no legal standing, but they sent them to the National Archives. But they were not forwarded to Congress because under the Electoral Count Act, only slates certified by the states are forwarded to Congress. Then, later that day, registration of Attorney General William Barr is publicly announced. Then, on December 18, Trump tweets, "Statistically impossible to have lost the 2020 election. Big protest in DC on January 6th. Be there, will be wild." Fast forward to January 1st, and the National Park Service grants a permit for a First Amendment rally at the Eclipse to Women for America First, with an estimated attendance of 5,000. Now, on January 2nd, Trump claimed that we have won the election in Georgia, and he demanded from reference, "I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than the 11,779 vote margin of defeat we have because we won the state," which can be taken two different ways. The first is telling him, "Hey, I know the votes are here, find them," or can be taken the other way. "I know we lost, so find me the votes. I need to win," which would mean that he is interfering with an election, which is treason. But we will never know what his real intent is. All we know is that based on how he acts, do you really think Trump is a person to back down when there is a chance that he would have won? No, that's not the kind of person that Trump is. Now, moving on to January 3rd, Trump orders recently appointed Secretary of Defense Christopher C. Miller to, quote, "do whatever necessary to protect the demonstrator," end of quote, on January 6th. Also on this day, at 1 p.m., protest at the U.S. Capitol is added to the January 6th rally announcement on the March to America website. Later that day, an internal Capitol Police intelligence reports warns that enraged protesters flanked by white supremacists and extreme militia groups are likely to arrive in Washington, armed for battle, and target Congress on January 6th, according to the Washington Post. Also, on this day, in a heated Oval Office meeting, Trump pushes his plan to install Jeffrey Clark as head of the DOJ. Clark, the top energy lawyer at the DOJ, supports Trump's claims of election fraud. Officials from the DOJ and the White House tell Trump they do not support his plan, and some issue ultimatums. Acting Attorney General Jeffrey Rosen, his deputy Richard Donahue, and office legal counsel head Stephen Engel all threatened to resign if Trump installs Clark. The next day, on January 4th, Secretary of Defense Miller issued orders which prohibited deploying DC Guard members with weapons, helmets, body armor, and riot control agents without his personal approval. So, let's look at the beginning of the day on January 6th, 2020. At 1 a.m., Trump tweets, "If Mike Pence comes through for us, we will win the presidency," which is protected by the First Amendment, so he can't be charged. Then, at 8:17 a.m., Trump tweets, "States want to correct their votes, which they know now were based on irregularities and fraud, plus corrupt processes never received legislative approval. All Mike Pence has to do is send them back to the states and we win. Do it, Mike. It's time for extreme courage, which is his opinion and within his right as president to question an election, especially when the election has not been certified yet and is not against the law. Because if it was, Joe Biden would be in trouble if he questioned the legitimacy of an upcoming election in November 2020. On his second solo press conference on January 19th, Joe Biden said that elections could, quote, easily be illegitimate. Also, the President of the United States has the constitutional right to question an election. According to an article written by law professor Douglas Gerbert at Ohio Northern University, he states, but why would Trump and his supporters not have the constitutional right to refuse to accept the results of what they think in truth faith is a corrupt election? I say constitutional right intentionally. And also, the basic premise with popular constitutionalism is that the government belongs to the people, and the practical effect it is that the people assume an active and ongoing role over the interpretation and enforcement of the constitutional law. And that is everything that leads up, and that is everything that was on January 6th. Thank you all for watching, and after looking at all of this facts, do you really think that Trump is liable for what happened on January 6th? Going straight from that, what are your opinions on this case? Tell me in the comments below, and we can have a debate about what you think or what you don't think Trump did or didn't say on this day. Thank you all for watching, and thank you all for enjoying, and I hope they have a great rest of your day. Bye. Hey, before you go, don't forget to check out all my other content that I don't only have on this channel, but all of my other channels that I have. I do have a cooking channel where I make weekly videos that I make pancakes and cupcakes and all different things like that. I also have a podcast channel where it is not political at all, and I just talk about my daily life. That's available on all the popular streaming platforms. And finally, we have this show, and we have a new show coming soon, which I will be announcing in the next couple weeks. If you did like this video, please subscribe down below for weekly content, and like this video so I know that you like videos like this. Thank you all, and have a great one.